Welcome to the Further Light Podcast, presented and brought to you by Wisconsin Freemasonry, helping you accomplish all your Masonic goals through education and understanding. And without further ado, I present to you Brother Chris Ludke.
This is Brother Chris Ludke, and today I want to explore the 7 liberal arts. All Freemasons will be asked to pursue the 7 liberal arts. After all, as early as 1812, William Preston is writing about their importance and how they need to be brought into the lodge because it's a way to educate the brothers, to help us improve ourselves not only in Masonry, but in life. And although they may seem outdated or to many obsolete, I assure you they are not. Through the use of these arts, we find a path towards understanding, a path towards improving ourselves to fulfill our quest to smooth the rough ashlar. The 7 liberal arts are key to understanding Freemasonry and arguably to understanding our world, despite their age. My goal in this series is to introduce and examine the 7 liberal arts with an eye towards their importance and application in your life, both publicly but also as a Mason. Today we start with a broad introduction before exploring each subject with greater depth in the forthcoming episodes. And there are several questions I want answered as we go through this material. First of all, what are the 7 liberal arts? What order should they fall in and why? And finally, why are the 7 liberal arts important enough to be included in Masonic teaching? But let's start at the beginning. What are the 7 liberal arts and sciences? Now, the term liberal arts comes from the Latin word liber, which means to free. Thus, it was believed that the 7 liberal arts would free one through the knowledge gained in each of the various disciplines. The term 7 liberal arts, or artes liberales, refers to the specific, quote, branches of knowledge that are taught in medieval schools, although the ideas develop during the Greek and Roman periods, although there's some variation that exists. The 7 arts that we have today are composed of 2 families, containing 3 and respectively 4 arts. This 3 plus 4 structure is critical to understand how these arts complement each other. We will discuss the division shortly, but first let's review the 7 classical arts and sciences. The first family is composed of grammar, rhetoric, logic, arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy, and are thus explained. Grammar defines the rules used to construct phrases, sentences, words, and connect these elements to communicate ideas in a given language. This is basically how to communicate knowledge. An understanding of this first art is necessary for all others to be learned, because after all, how can you learn something as advanced as astronomy if you don't understand how to communicate your thoughts in the first place? Rhetoric is the art of using language as a means to persuade. Once a student learns how to read and write properly, they are now prepared to manipulate words and sentences to explain complex ideas. So not only have they brought the language or brought the ideas in, but now they can shape them and share them. Mastering rhetoric is an intermediate step before delving into the more complex domain of logic, and logic is sometimes referred to as dialectic. The two coexist, although they are not the same thing. Now, logic is the reasoning which seeks to confront and contrast ideas, identify which is correct and which is not, removing ambiguity, and measure, compare, analyze, prove, and demonstrate facts with clarity. In other words, it is the ability to look at a statement, pick out that which is true from that which is not, identify biases, and determine why this is being sent to you. Why is this message being communicated, rather than simply accepting it? The word derives from the Greek logic, feminine of logikos, or possessed of reason, and from logos, word, thought, idea, argument, account, reason, or principle. Grammar is the mechanics of a language. Rhetoric is the use of the language to instruct and persuade. Logic is the mechanics of thinking clearly, of comparison, and of analysis. You can also look at it this way. Logic can be described as the art of thinking. Grammar, the art of inventing symbols and combining them to express ideas. And rhetoric, the art of communicating thought from one mind to another, the adaptation of language to circumstance. Now we can proceed to the second family that is composed of these four arts, which is arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy. Arithmetic is the oldest and most elementary branch of mathematics, used for tasks ranging from simple day-to-day counting to advanced sciences and business calculations. Geometry is part of mathematics concerned with questions of size, shape, and relative position of figures, and with properties of space, something that you need in order to develop the ideas of astronomy. So you need arithmetic to give you the basics of mathematics. Then you need geometry, which specializes those mathematics, which are applied in astronomy later on. Then we have harmony or music. And this is an art form whose medium is sound organized in time. Music theory also relies considerably on mathematics, number theory, and the laws of arithmetic. Arguably, it also teaches to be general lovers of the arts as well as the sciences. Then astronomy is the scientific study of celestial objects. Historically, astronomy has included disciplines as diverse as meteorology, the motion of celestial objects, celestial navigation, particularly important as we move through various periods of history up until modern GPS and tracking, the making of calendars and documenting of historical facts, and even divining the future in the form of astrology, although astrology actually plays another role as well, but we'll get there when we talk about astronomy. In ancient thinking, it was the discipline of the motion of all objects through space and time, the practical application of geometry. Astronomy and astrology was also critical in the study of philosophy and theology, as everything divine or spiritual was seen as coming down from the heavens. Without it, what is left was considered earthly and profane. So why this 3+4 structure? Why not just 7? The first three arts, grammar, rhetoric, and logic, form the three ancient arts of discourse, known as the trivium, Latin for 3 ways or 3 roads. From ancient Greece until the late 19th century, the trivium was a fundamental path of education, used to train public speakers and writers to direct audiences to action with their arguments. Philosophers, lawyers, public servants, teachers, military officers, and others relied on mastery of the trivium to perform their duty and influence people. The knowledge of discourse and persuasion coming originally from the schools of Aristotle, Plato, and Socrates in ancient Greece. As Napoleon Bonaparte himself once said, "By our words we rule the world." Later in medieval times, the study of logic, grammar, and rhetoric was considered a prerequisite for the quadrivium, Latin for 4 ways or 4 roads, which was made up of arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy. The trivium was the beginning of the liberal arts, and at many medieval universities, this would have been basically your undergraduate course of study. The quadrivium would complete the student's formal education. The trivium, of course, does not address any specific subject. Instead, it teaches the student how to read and write, debate, compare, analyze, and make conclusions. In simple parlance, the trivium is critical thinking. It's teaching you quite literally how to think. Grammar gives us knowledge and learning of language. Logic gives us reasoning, questioning, and thinking with language. Rhetoric gives us the ability to direct, move, and persuade using language. The teaching of the quadrivium assumes that the trivium has been fully mastered. Now the student is properly prepared to explore these higher concepts. Considering the rise in complexity from basic grammar to measuring the motion of planets, it's natural to conclude that there must be a learning process. or that the 3 simple arts that enable you to master the 4 complex arts is going to be a very important way of looking at this. So we have 3 arts to express, communicate, and compare, which serve as tools, plus 4 sciences that open the universe to be measured and understood using those original 3 classes. In practice, to ignore this order would be the same as teaching advanced calculus before the student is familiar with basic arithmetic or even knows how to read. This is the only way the student would receive formal education in ancient and medieval times, and this system has reflections echoed in our modern educational system today. Once the 7 liberal arts and sciences were mastered, then one would have completed his educational path and would be a full or free man, able to better understand creation and its mysteries. Why liberal? Those who were slaves or not completely free would never receive full education. Therefore, the curriculum was named the Free Arts and Sciences. Liber meaning free in Latin. Alternatively, we could also consider that once one achieves such level of education, he would be free from the chains of ignorance and allow a person to govern his own life, instead of being governed by mere circumstance. Finally, you could argue that spiritual and intellectual enlightenment allows us to become free from fatalism. This idea that the power of the stars has some power over the fate of man. In other words, if you can think for yourself, people cannot shape your fate. You can shape your own. Well, that makes it particularly important that we study these things today, and we can't rely on the modern education system to have covered all of them. In fact, in many cases, it barely covers the trivium in the first place. The learned man is thus a free man, liberated by education. So let's tie this up. If we are to become better men, we must work on being better able to understand our world. These 7 branches of knowledge lay a foundation on which we can build our knowledge of any subject, from history to calculus. These 7 liberal arts are presented for a purpose. They charge us to continue to be learners, to improve ourselves through the way we think. Education does not stop with graduation. We must work to improve ourselves through a greater understanding of the world around us. That's why William Preston put the 7 liberal arts into the Masonic teachings in the first place. The idea was that this would help us improve ourselves as men and as Masons. It would help us exist in harmony and understand the world around us. By developing our understanding, we improve as men and smooth the edges of the rough ashlar by using the attentive ear to learn from the instructive tongues of so many prior generations. In the next episode, I will be looking at grammar, and we will be going through each of these liberal arts in individual episodes moving forward, hopefully giving you concrete structure by which not only to understand this Masonic teaching, but also the world around you.
Are you interested in learning more about Freemasonry in Wisconsin? Visit wisconsinmasons.org. That is WIMasons.org to learn more about Masonry and access further educational content, giving you further light in Masonry. Thank you for listening.